Shockwaves in the love life of Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu, and this time, the whispers refuse to fade. A sudden leak, a trail of subtle clues, a romantic escape to Cappadocia, and a storm of messages that crossed the line. Tonight, on Whispers of Turkish Stars, we pull back the curtain on an unfolding saga where admiration turns into pressure, where affection risks becoming collateral damage, and where a woman's protective instinct redraws the boundaries of her digital world. From a distance, the glitter of social media looks harmless: curated snapshots, perfectly lit smiles, soft music over sunlit mornings. Up close, though, the brightness can burn. Few have felt that heat more intensely than Elçin Sangu, especially since her bond with Barış Arduç tipped from rumor into reality. Almost overnight, the digital space around her transformed from a stage into a battlefield. Let's walk through this romance precisely as it took shape, quietly at first, then abruptly loud. Their story didn't burst into view with a grand proclamation. It grew in the shadows of coincidence: the same cities on the same days, nearly identical playlists over late-night stories, coffee breaks at familiar chains that fans know as well as the stars themselves. An observant eye would have seen it: those careful likes exchanged without fanfare, moments synchronized without a single photograph shared together. And still, a question began ticking like a metronome beneath every post. Are they seeing each other? Then came the leak. The thing that turned assumption into headline. A series of private Instagram messages surfaced, messages attributed to an account linked to Elçin, in which she reportedly acknowledged that she and Barış had been dating for roughly a month. No coy disguises, no dramatic denials. Just matter-of-fact clarity. There was another detail that resonated even more. According to those same messages, Barış had personally spoken to his ex, Mehtap Algül, before the romance moved forward, laying out the situation so no one had to wrestle with half-truths. An entire narrative recalibrated in an instant. The story was no longer an unconfirmed fantasy. It stood in the open, where fascination and fury both thrive. Once that fuse was lit, the timeline became impossible to ignore. The travel clues, the overlapping playlists, the guarded glances. They all clicked into place. And then, as if scripted by fate, the proof people wanted arrived wrapped in hot air balloon shadows and stone-carved walls: a getaway in Cappadocia. If there's a place where love makes itself visible, it's there: dawns blushing over valleys, balloons drifting like fragile planets, rooms where old stones seem to listen and keep secrets. Reports placed Barış and Elçin there together, celebrating more than just a trip. It felt like a soft debut. The milestone that said, without saying too much, "We're here." Her birthday unfolded in that dreamlike landscape, and a few photos from the weekend set off alarms across the internet. When Barış chimed in below her birthday post, something simple, a wish for her day and a line about gathering many more beautiful moments together, the comment traveled like comet dust across fan pages, aggregators, and gossip threads. What had been a murmur was now a chorus. But the chorus wasn't all applause. Alongside warmth came a wave that turned cold. Very quickly, Elçin shared that her inbox was being flooded with messages, some curt, some vicious, many of them from outside Turkey. Lashing out at her decisions, questioning her motives, and, most painfully, dragging the name that matters most in her quieter hours: Sue. The child in her life, the one she protects, the one she refuses to let be touched by the ugly edges of fame, ended up mentioned in ways that no one should ever witness. If you've ever wondered where admiration ends and possession begins, here was the line, crossed again and again. Why this intensity, and why now? Part of the answer is obvious. Barış's fan base stretches across continents, especially in Spain, Italy, and Brazil, where his leading man aura has become mythic. For some, the stars who live in their hearts feel like they belong to them alone. The women in those stars' lives, then, become rivals inside a fantasy that has no room for reality. And when distance dulls empathy, anonymity can embolden the cruel. So the messages keep coming, typed by hands that would never move the same way face to face. It's an old story with a modern mask. A mother's instinct doesn't ask permission. While she rarely shares much in the first place, Elçin understood what had to come next. She would reduce Sue's presence on her accounts, filter comments with renewed strictness, and draw a firm line that protects what matters beyond the spotlight. It's a turning point for anyone who lives part of her life online, the quiet acceptance that some rooms must stay locked, even as the hallway outside grows louder. And where does Metap Algol stand in this? The eyes of the curious turned to her immediately. Would there be an outburst? A bitter note? A pointed quote? None of that arrived. Instead, a composed silence, a posture that read as self-respect and closure. Behind-the-scenes whispers say she and Barış had been on separate paths long before the new romance began, and that he reached out before stepping forward to ensure no one was left guessing. That version of events, calm, adult, unmistakably finished, only added another layer of gravity to the current chapter. For Barış, the dilemma is as old as fame itself, yet newly complicated by scale. He is not simply a beloved actor at home. He is an internationally cherished figure whose every choice echoes across languages and time zones. That means love becomes part of strategy, not because it should, but because crowds demand a share in it. Confidants say he has asked, more than once, why his happiness invites such debate. The answer is the same answer it always is: when people build pieces of themselves around you, they forget you belong to yourself first. The psychology sits right there in the open. There's the myth of the perfect screen romance fans want to keep untouched. There's the pitfall of a culture that still, too often, places blame on the woman first, as if she took something instead of simply being part of a mutual choice. There's jealousy, dressed up as protectiveness. And beneath it all, there's the internet's easiest weapon, a name typed without consequence. So what happens next? Those close to Elçin say her approach is changing by design. She'll share less of her private moments, allow fewer words into her space, and cultivate a calmer routine online. That doesn't mean fear wins. It means maturity does. It means choosing what the noise can't reach. And even with the strain, even as anyone would feel the press of anxiety, the relationship itself, they say, is steady. Outwardly, she's learned to breathe through the uproar. Inwardly, she still carries the weight that anyone would carry when a child's name has been dragged into a mess. Meanwhile, Barış is said to be leaning in rather than stepping back. The whispers suggest he's encouraging, protective, the kind of supportive partner who refuses to let someone he loves feel alone in a crowd. He wants to speak to his audience with respect and clarity, delivering a sentiment that sounds simple but matters: kindness first. There are even murmurs of another plan to slip away together, a new escape after Cappadocia, not as a performance, but as a sanctuary. Friends say he is serious about what they share. How does this story end? The commentators are split. One camp believes this is the most balanced relationship he's ever held in the public eye: two adults, both accomplished, both grounded, drawn together not by madness but by familiarity and trust. Another camp fears the same forces that power a global career will grind against intimacy, that schedules and scrutiny will inevitably fray what's tender. And there's the darker concern that constant hostility, a drip-drip of negativity from the edges of the fan map, might be more corrosive than anyone wants to admit. But look at what's in front of us. There's a love that refused to posture, choosing instead to grow in quiet corners until the season felt right. There's a disclosure that became controversial only because it was honest. There's a tide of hate mail that proved how fragile public spaces can be, and a decision to protect a child named Sue, proof that the job title celebrity ends where the word guardian begins. There's a vacation through Cappadocia's otherworldly silence, a handful of words from Barış beneath a birthday, and a world that read that message like a promise. And there is, now, a long road where the media will walk alongside them whether they want that company or not. Every new photo will be read like a chapter. Every absence will be recast as a clue. That's not fair, but it's how the game is played. What matters, and what will determine the truth of this story, is what the two of them decide when no one is watching. We'll keep asking the questions that make this saga feel so immediate. Is the pressure from abroad too much for any couple to withstand? Are fans crossing lines in the name of devotion? Did the Cappadocia weekend mark a beginning or a test? And will the layered, careful way they've managed this so far prove that love can live alongside fame without being consumed by it? Add your voice below. Tell us if you think this connection will thrive or stumble. Share why you believe the hate surged the way it did, and whether audiences who adore a star sometimes forget what love actually demands in real life. Then stay with us here at Whispers of Turkish Stars. We'll keep tracking every thread, the posts, the silences, the support, the stumbles. Because stories like this don't blaze and vanish, they settle in and evolve. And whatever tomorrow brings for Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu, one thing is clear. Their story has only just begun, and we are all, for better or worse, watching it write itself in real time. Before you go, drop a comment, like the video, and subscribe to Whispers of Turkish Stars so you don't miss the next chapter. New clues arrive in an instant in this world, and when they do, we'll be here to sift fact from fantasy, compassion from cruelty, and love from noise. Until the next episode, take care. And remember that even in the brightest spotlight, everyone deserves a little room to breathe.